These 5 days were all about the places I dreamed of seeing. The steaming geysers and endless wildlife of Yellowstone, the jagged peaks of the Tetons rising straight from the valley floor, the historic town of Jackson, Wyoming, where the spirit of the West feels alive in every corner, and finally over Teton Pass, that was just reopened 3 weeks after a catastrophic road collapse. If you want to stay in Yellowstone, you have to make reservations many, many months in advance. So I'd been anticipating these days and hoping for great weather since I left New York back in April. Being here, right now, was a big part of this dream of a road trip. Welcome, or welcome back, to My Grand Detour. This episode covers July 12th to 16th, 2024, days 93 to 97 of my 112-day, 18,000-mile solo motorcycle trip across the US and a little bit of Canada. My meanderings over these 5 days took me from Red Lodge, Montana, into Yellowstone, through the Tetons, and finally over Teton Pass into Idaho. Before we dive in, if you're enjoying these rides, please hit like and subscribe. It helps me keep making these videos, and it's always great to know others are riding along with me. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What's your favorite national park, and why? From Red Lodge, I rode down to Cody, Wyoming, filled up the gas tank, and headed west directly into the park. I was meeting my brother-in-law Scott at the Old Faithful Inn, where we'd stay for 3 nights. The ride into Yellowstone did come with a little stress. My oil level warning light came on. I admit I hadn't checked it in a few days, and I hadn't thought to carry some extra oil with me, because I'm a knucklehead. After what was already months of anticipation, it felt like one more obstacle to overcome before I could enjoy the reward. I made it to Old Faithful Inn, and I met up with Scott. He had rented a Jeep in Salt Lake City, and had driven up to Yellowstone. We even had our first bison sighting right there in the parking lot. They are big. We headed a few hours back out of the park to see if we could find the right oil for the bike. The exact oil I needed was nowhere to be found. But after a few phone calls and some guidance from my BMW dealer back home, I found a substitute that met all the specifications they gave me. Crisis averted, I could focus on the excitement of finally being here. That evening, we watched Old Faithful erupt from the deck of the inn. It erupts about every 90 minutes, and you can find the predictions posted at the Visitor Center and online at geysertimes.org. I'll put a link in the description. Here's a pro tip. At the Visitor Center, when you get your Old Faithful Park Passport stamp, go to the counter and ask for the historic stamp. They keep one of the original stamp designs behind the counter, but only for those who know to ask. The next morning, I woke up early to catch the sunrise, and I was hoping to catch an eruption without the crowds.
Oh, there he goes!
Maybe it's straight there. That looks like it, yeah.
And I was rewarded when Old Faithful did her thing just as the sun broke over the ridge. Being here, hearing the noise, and feeling the ground rumble was better than I imagined.
It looks like you can't see any of it because of all that cloud. It looks like a nuclear bomb.
It felt like the park was welcoming me with its most famous performance. Scott and I took the Jeep and the Grand Loop north to the Mud Volcano area, where we had our second bison encounter on the boardwalk. We marveled at seeing about a half a dozen bison in this area. And for a while, we had to just wait to see if the one on the boardwalk ahead of us or the one behind us would give us room to keep walking first. They knew we were there, and they didn't care.
Rolling around.
Oh. Rolled in the dirt. You just did a roll in the
We carried on to the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone to see the falls, and then up to Tower Junction and into Lamar Valley, where the larger bison herds roam. There are some people over there standing on the road. There, we got stuck in a full-on bison traffic jam.
God, this is insane.
I'm guessing nearly 500, 600 of them just meandering down the road. This was also the time of the year for the red dogs, the baby bisons. And we were happily stuck and surrounded for close to an hour. This is a Yellowstone moment you dream about. The wildlife's so close and immense, it just dominates the view. And I'll admit, I was grateful for the protection of the Jeep. I'm not sure how calm and relaxed I'd have been on the bike, with a couple of 1,000-pound bison inches away. From there, we drove the Jeep out to the Beartooth Highway. Just 2 days earlier, I'd ridden it on my bike, exposed to the wind, the sun, the switchbacks, and the sheer cliffs. I'll put a link to that here and in the description. Today, Scott was driving, so I had more time to just sit back, look around, and take in the scenery. It was still amazing, but also a little more distant. In Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, Robert Pirsig wrote, "In a car, you're always in a compartment. And because you're used to it, you don't realize that through that car window, everything you see is just more TV. You're a passive observer, and it's all moving by you, boringly, in a frame. On a cycle, that frame is gone. You're completely in contact with it all. You're in the scene, not just watching it anymore. And the sense of presence is overwhelming." That following day, we focused on Yellowstone's famous geothermal features. Old Faithful, Castle, and Grand Geysers in Upper Geyser Basin, along with hundreds of others in Black Sand and Biscuit Basin. And when Scott and I walked the boardwalk at Biscuit Basin on July 13th, it was a peaceful, colorful stop. But just 10 days later, on July 23, 2024, a hydrothermal explosion from Black Diamond Pool blasted steam, mud, and rocks hundreds of feet into the air, destroying part of that same boardwalk we were walking on. Fortunately, no one was hurt, but it was a stark reminder that Yellowstone isn't just beautiful, it's alive, changing, unpredictable, and sometimes dangerous. We also visited the colorful pool known as the Grand Prismatic. Its colors are as vivid as any painting. And while you can see it at the ground level, from the parking lot, it's totally worth it to take the half-mile or so hike up to the overlook to get the aerial view. These are the kinds of moments you chase in Yellowstone. And after 3 days, I know I only had a glimpse. Yellowstone is a place you could spend an entire lifetime exploring. I'll have to come back. Day 96. The Tetons and Jackson, Wyoming. On July 15th, we left Yellowstone through the south entrance and followed the John D. Rockefeller Memorial Parkway, a short but important stretch of road connecting Yellowstone to Grand Teton National Park. The Tetons rise up like jagged teeth, straight from the valley floor, unlike most ranges that soften into foothills. They look raw and untamed, very similar to the sawtooths in Idaho, but much, much bigger. We stopped at Jackson Lake, Jenny Lake, and Colter Bay, each one offering a new angle on those unforgettable peaks. And of course the visitor centers, where we got those all-important National Park passport stamps. We rolled into Jackson late in the day, a beautiful mountain town where history and the spirit of the West still lingers. Surrounded by art galleries, restaurants, and the energy of adventure seekers, it's the perfect balance of rugged and refined. Scott and I walked to dinner at Orsetto, where we had a great meal before calling it a night. Day 97. Over the Teton Pass to Pocatello, Idaho. Before tackling the pass, though, we rode back north to check out Mormon Row, home to the historic Molten Barns. You've seen this building in countless photographs, but standing there is an experience. With the Tetons as a backdrop, you feel connected to the history of those who lived and worked here, with the mountains towering over them. We turned back through Jackson and began the climb over Teton Pass. Just about a month earlier, a massive landslide had taken out a section of this road, and I'd been following the news since back in June, never imagining I'd actually get to ride it this summer. The images had made it look like it could be closed for months, maybe even years. Amazingly, crews had it reopened in just 3 weeks, and crossing it now felt like the payoff of both anticipation and luck. and almost immediately, the weather turned. From bright sun to rain, then to pea-sized hail. I had anticipated the climb, but not the storm, and that made the sunshine on the Idaho side feel like an earned reward. Passing through the freshly repaired section, I'm still amazed it was open at all. Route 26 rewarded us with miles of sweeping turns and rolling hills. And finally, a stretch of Interstate 15 carried us to Pocatello. A hotel check-in, some dinner, a Walmart supply run, and a couple loads of laundry wrapped up the day. The quieter rhythms of travel that balance the big scenic payoffs. Since heading out on April 11th, 2024, I've been anticipating this part of the journey. Because you have to make reservations months in advance, Yellowstone was a fixed anchor on my trip. One of the few times where I needed to be in a particular place on a particular day, and that gave it a special significance. These 5 days felt like the payoff for every long mile and twist and turn. They reminded me exactly why I set out on this journey in the first place. Wallace Stenger said, "National parks are the best idea we ever had. Absolutely American, absolutely democratic. They reflect us at our best rather than our worst." Riding through Yellowstone and the Tetons, I couldn't agree more. Tomorrow, I head down to Salt Lake City to get my bike serviced. It's already time for my 18,000 mile service, and they have to get pretty deep into things to check out the valve clearances. Hopefully, they can also figure out a solution to the oil problem I've been having since April 30th in Kansas City. They'll be keeping the bike for 3 days, so Scott and I are going to meet up with his friend Tom and head back down to Moab to do some hiking as my Grand Detour continues. Thanks for riding along. Until the next ride, be safe, be curious, and keep meandering.